And we're live. So this is the first live that we've done, right?
This is the first live that we've done, man. Yeah, we've
Is
known
this
each
the?
other for about a year.
Yeah, it's been in the works in a year. How long have you ever been on a live?
I no man, this is my christening.
Okay, cool, cool.
Yeah,
Do you
I'm
mind sort
excited.
of giving a brief introduction? So you're a CPA and you do a lot of work with franchises, right?
Yeah, so I'm a CPA. I own two businesses. One is a
Yeah.
service CPA firm, and the other one is a business brokerage franchise consulting firm. And to put it quite simply, I'm obsessed with helping people buy businesses.
How'd you get into that? Because that's not like normal for CPA. Because a lot of times I see franchise people and they're just franchise people, right? That's what they do. But
Right,
I
exactly.
haven't really met a CPA who's done that. How'd you sort of get involved in it?
So great question. I bought a couple businesses myself.
Yeah.
Uh, I bought a couple CPA firms myself back in 2014 and 2015, and I fell in love with the process of buying other businesses. So I wanted, and coincidentally, one of the tax clients that I got was a self-employed franchise referral consultant. So he connects prospective franchisees to franchisors all across the country and gets paid commissions from the franchisors. So here I am I was 27, 28 years old at the time. I just bought they weren't franchise businesses, but they were other businesses nonetheless. And I just got this client
Yeah.
who's essentially in the business of helping people buy businesses, specifically in the franchise realm. And so in 2015, I was like, all of these things coming together. I'm like, man, like I just bought a couple of businesses. I love it.
Yeah.
And I want to help other people do the same thing. So I started my own business brokerage franchise consulting firm in 2015.
It's always interesting how, these things happen, right? That you don't, right? If I asked you before when you were being CPA, would you ever think of getting into that? You'd be like, what's that? Like, no, I'm just going to be a CPA. It's just interesting how our passions sort of develop just by pure coincidence, right? That we sort of do things, we get involved, and we fall in love. And Tony, thank you for stopping by. First LinkedIn Live you've watched. Feel free to engage. Thank you. I appreciate you. We connected recently. Seems like a genuine guy. Tony sells t-shirts. So if you want a t-shirt, buy one off Tony. I definitely want to buy one of your t-shirts. So send me a message after this. I want to buy one of them. So yeah, so now how did you sort of develop that business, right? Because it's hard sort of balancing both the CPA firm and doing that. And me as myself, right? I'm involved in several things. It's not always easy. How'd you sort of manage that?
So my childhood friend John Pace and
Yeah,
my wife Mimi are my partners. My wife Mimi is a partner in both my
yeah,
businesses, but I needed someone. Like, I was still working 60 plus hours a week over
yeah,
at my CPA firm when I started my business brokerage franchise consulting firm. So my buddy John, he's been running the day to day of it, the day to
yeah.
day of BizFran Hub, which is the name of our firm, ever since we started in 2015. And I more recently got my CPA firm to a place where I spend about 20 to 25 hours a week on average, sometimes more, sometimes less. So with that excess time, I'm now focusing it more over at BizFriend Hub along with John. So there's only one way to scale businesses, man. Like, you got to grow a team. There, you can only do so much by yourself until you start to get maxed out on your time. And if you want to, if you want to scale, you just I've learned, I've suffered enough throughout the years. I've tried to do everything myself, and
Yeah.
it really doesn't, like, it's not sustainable long term. So I've had a team since day one over at BizFran Hub, and so just been growing the
Nice.
team and implementing systems ever since.
Yeah, and I think, look, I've personally suffered that too in terms of, and look, in the beginning, it's like tough, right? You don't have enough money to hire someone, or you don't have things down, and you're still figuring out, um, and all that. So it's like it takes time to sort of build that up, right? It takes time to, and it takes time to figure out like what you're good at too, right? Because you learn a lot about yourself during the process. You learn a lot about what you're good at, what you're not good at, what you like doing and what you don't like doing. I always tell people outsource things that you need to do and you can afford to outsource them and you don't like doing them, right? So spend more time, more energy on the things that sort of make sense. It's less draining. So now let's sort of go into the topic of franchising. What is like how what is franchising? First, what's the definition of franchising?
So it's a business model in which there's a franchisor and a franchisee. So the franchisor is the the brand. It's the business that has the proprietary brand, the business systems down pat. It has the whole playbook, and they award territories to prospective franchisees all across the country. And the franchisee buys into the brand, buys into the business, and they purchase the licensing rights to operate that brand, that business in their specific territory. And the franchisor provides support to the franchisee in the context of marketing and training. They have national accounts with vendors that the franchisees have access to, and the franchisee pays royalties to the franchisor ongoing, in exchange for the right to use their brand to carry out the business in that specific territory. So it's when most people think of franchise, they think of fast food. They think of Taco Bell, KFC. That's a franchise. It's a franchise restaurant and stuff. The franchise business model exists in several different industries. There are service businesses, retail, they're home-based, brick and mortar, B2B, B2C. Food industry is one common industry of franchising, but there are so many different industries. You name the industry, chances are multiple franchise businesses exist in that industry. And the difference between a franchise business and an independent business is that franchisor-franchisee relationship. So the franchisor really, the franchisors, they always start out as an independent business. They are profitable. They find success as an independent business, and in order to scale, they can go the franchise route. And so when they convert their business to a franchisor model, they become the entity that provides the training and the support of the franchisees all across the country, and the franchisor's income is the royalties that it collects from the franchisees, as well as the franchise fees that it collects from the franchisees. So it's a business. It's a business model that allows businesses to scale by awarding territory rights to franchisees all across the country, as opposed to being a single entity and going national, as one big corporation. It's a way to spread out and scale, and to scale by royalty income, as opposed to having like this one monster business.
Nice. Oh, let's derail for a second. Just want to say hi to Sid. And I know obviously we got to be careful. Tony asked, any tax advice from a CPA perspective for online sales? Like, do you have anything generic you could sort of tell him?
Really, I mean, when it comes to income tax, it doesn't really matter if it's online, if it's online, or if it's some other sort of business, like what your income is, like depending on how much money you're making, Tony, it may be advantageous for you to be taxed as an S corporation. But I'm usually a fan of, starting out as an LLC, and then depending on how much money you make, you may want to consider being taxed as an S corporation, because you may be able to save in self-employment taxes there. The biggest thing for online sales is the sales tax issue. Like, when do you collect sales tax and when do you not collect sales tax? And it depends on where the end users are. I know that I know that Amazon, I believe, is starting to collect sales tax on more things than they used to now. But really, tax advice mainly for online sales, there's really no difference to regular income tax, but there's some nuances that may come into play with sales tax more than anything, just because of the nature of the e-commerce industry.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for that good advice. And always, talk to your accountant. They can sort of guide you in the right direction, right? That's again, it's gonna, because especially with tax advice, it's always specific situation, right? How you're structured, what state you're in, what you're selling, and all that stuff, right? Because that. So now let's go back. So you mentioned that, right? The common thing is people think franchising, they think of fast food, right? Because you think of the McDonald's, you think of the Subways, and it comes with, okay, you get to use their brand, you get to do, but you have to use it a certain way. You have to buy the equipment from them. They get a certain percentage of your sales, but they give you the training, they give you some other stuff, and it does help because I know if you're driving randomly on a 4 hour trip, are you going to stop at a random restaurant or McDonald's, right? Even if the food may be better, you just don't know. And especially they do a lot of commercials, they do a lot of branding and all that stuff, so that you get that power, right? That's what your royalties are going into. What are some other types of brands, if you could either name them or talk about? Because I know sometimes there are kitchen cabinet franchises, there are wood flooring franchises. What are some other ones?
Yeah, so I mean, there are lots of different industries that the franchise business model exists in. It exists in home services, like you just mentioned. There's a great flooring franchise out there called Footprints Floors, for example. There's a great kitchen and bathroom modeling franchise out there called Kitchen Tune Up, for example, just to name some brands that are in home service. There are franchise businesses in senior care. There are franchise businesses in health and in other aspects of health and wellness, like chiropractic, massage. There are franchise business models in moving and portable storage. There are franchise business models in salons. There physical therapy. The pet industry, whether it comes to pet grooming or actual retail of
Wow.
pet food. Like Pet Supplies Plus is a franchise. Like PetSmart is not a franchise, but Pet Supplies Plus, that one with the green signage, that's a franchise. So obviously food service is a big one. There's property management franchise businesses. There are home inspection franchise. That falls into the realm of home service. You name it. There, like the industry. There are coaching franchises out there, like where if there are expense.
John Maxwell, right? I see a lot of that would be a franchise.
Sounds familiar, John.
It's
Like
like,
for example, like there's Action Coach, there's Focal Point Coaching, there's
hmm.
Sandler Training. These are all,
Sandler. I know Sandler is very popular. That's
yeah,
Sandler sales training, right?
yeah, exactly. So those are great models for someone who's great at sales and wants to do something owner operator, that they can pretty much spend their whole time doing. Uh, there are expense reduction franchises. So
Yeah, I know that. I know of
yeah,
like the ones that they'll look at your phone bill and all that stuff. They'll look at this and find ways to sort of save money on your behalf. That's a common one I've seen here and there.
yeah, absolutely. There are cleaning franchises, like both resident. Obviously everyone's heard of Molly Maid. There's also a great one called the Cleaning Authority.
Yeah.
And there's residential and commercial. There are automobile franchises, for repair. There's an upholst. There's a great franchise brand out there called Fibernew. They do upholstery, like for boats and for furniture. You name it. The franchise.
What's like something that's always stood out to you? Like in terms of what's one that you're like, wow, they have a franchise for that even surprises someone like you.
There's this one brand that it helps you do business with the government. So they help
Wow.
you how to do the government is one of the biggest purchasers out there for miscellaneous things, like
Yeah.
and they have the deepest pockets out there. So there's this brand out there that coaches you, that pretty much you invest in their franchise, and they pretty much train you on how to do business with the government. And it's just, I would have never thought about that.
Wow.
And like, are you like which department of the government are you doing business with? There's all different types of departments within the government that need to buy stuff, and they're always putting out bids out there. And so I always thought that was a really interesting one, just because, I mean, it's just such a great opportunity. Like if you can figure out a way to consistently have the U.S. government as your client, then you're never going to have to worry about them running out of money.
And you know what the thing is? I know like someone who used to work for the government, and he was saying, look, if you provide a good service, and I've heard this multiple times. Once you get the government as a client, they don't like a lot of the workers don't like doing research to switch because it's like a process to switch. So as long as you're giving them good, you get them in as client, you're good. As long as the department has the budget and stuff, they have need for that service, you'll keep sort of getting that. Just hey Uma, sorry, I meant to say Uma. Sorry for mistyping your name. Let me keyboard slip. Uh, And again, please ask any questions. Always like hearing from you. What are some things that franchise people sort of do wrong, right?
Well, there are. I mean, so I represent. So I mainly. So I represent highly vetted brands that are reputable franchisors, and they value my service because I vet and pre-qualify prospective franchisees for them. So, but there are franchisors out there that that there are bad franchisors out there.
Yeah.
One thing that they do wrong is when they franchise prematurely. So they still haven't proved concept as an independent business, and then they decide that they want to go the franchisor route. So the majority of the people that approach me and say, "Hey, Mike, I've got a business. It's this miscellaneous home service business, or it's this restaurant, and I want to franchise it, man." And I started asking them questions. They just started the business like a couple years ago. They haven't even made money yet. So you can't franchise at that point. It's still too early. Like, you still have to prove concept as an independent business, and prove that you have a successful business model before you start soliciting, uh, but before you start awarding franchise territories to other people. Because when you're awarding territories to other people, they're buying into your business. So if you're buying, if they're buying into your business model, into your proven system, so you have to make sure that that system is just that it's proven before you start collecting other people, before you start, soliciting people to invest as franchisees. So the biggest problem that franchisors that do it wrong, the biggest thing that they do wrong is that they franchise too soon. They should spend more time focusing on improving their business as an independent business, prove concept, make more money, make more mistakes, figure out solutions to those mistakes on their own, really get the business model down pat, have it, running like a well-oiled machine, then start franchising. Another thing is that when people do start franchising, they're awarding way too many territories.
Yeah.
And they grow too fast, and they don't have the support to help their franchisees. The whole reason why the main value add of investing in a franchise compared to an independent business is because you're investing into a proven business model. You have the marketing and the training support of the franchisor. When you are an independent business owner, you're really wearing all those hats yourself, and you don't have that backing. And so so the franchisor better make sure they can support their franchisees, because that's the main value proposition for someone who wants to become a business owner. That's the main value proposition for them to go the franchise route as opposed to the independent route. Because when you're a franchisee, you're in business by yourself, but not you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself, because you have the backing of the brand. So if the brand isn't providing backing, then it's kind of going against the whole
Yeah.
ethos of what franchising is all about.
Yeah. So what are some things that people should look for when they're trying to franchise, right? So they're in the industry. What are some important things that, because it's complex, right? How much royalty, how much this, how much upfront cost, what are they providing, and all that. So what are some things you have to say about that?
Meaning, like, for the business that wants to become a franchise,
Yeah, no, the other
or
one. Well,
for
I guess
someone who wants to buy.
someone who wants to buy first.
So someone who wants to buy, they need to have an idea of, like, they have to understand, like, they have to understand the pros and cons of every situation that they're facing right now. So the majority of the buyers that we work with are in transition, and they're mainly coming out of corporate. And so they either got laid off out of corporate, like they got laid off from their corporate job recently, or they are currently at a corporate job, but they want to get out of it because they can't stand it anymore, or they want to keep their corporate job and they want to invest in a business, franchise or non-franchise, as an investment diversification strategy. And so, but the main people that we talk with are coming out of corporate. And so, there's pros and cons to everything, right? So there's pros and cons to being a corporate employee. There are pros and cons to starting your own business from scratch, like a No Degree or a Sports Leader, or like a BizFran Hub. There are pros and cons to investing in a franchise business. And so really everyone, and when people work with me through my business buyer coaching process, in which we explore both franchise businesses and non-franchise business resales, we explore the pros and cons of everything, because like business ownership is not for everyone, but it may be the right fit for you. And the only way we're going to find out is if we go through the process and explore the pros and cons to everything. And so if someone wants to go the franchise route, they have to understand that there's an investment up front. So they have to make sure that they have enough liquidity and net worth to qualify for that investment, and they have to understand that it's buying, depending on what type of business they buy. They may be able to recover their investment in 1 or 2 years. For example, if it's a home-based service business, then there's no build out, there's no investment in furniture and equipment. So chances are the majority of their investment is the franchise fee, which can probably be somewhere around 60 to 70K. But then from there, they're operating from their house, and they're doing like the majority of the work themselves, at least for the first couple of years, so they can make their initial investment back pretty quickly. On the flip side, if you're investing in a salon suite franchise, which is going to require a build out of commercial real estate, and it's going to cut it up into a bunch of different suites where different stylists and massage therapists are going to work. Like, there's a big build out there.
Yeah.
And so you're not going to make your money back overnight on that one. But that's more of a long-term play. But on that business, you can be really pretty semi-passive right off the bat. And once you get the cash flow going, like you can be in a position 3 to 5 years down the road where you're really doing nothing. You're never doing nothing, but you're really doing like minimal compared to owner operator, and you have a nice cash flow coming in, and then you have options with your day job. You can keep working your day job, or you can quit because you've established this business. Like what income do you need to make to pay the bills for your family? Like you have to make sure that you figure out a way that you can keep money coming into the house during that startup phase of the business. So that's a big, what's your, like how long is it going to take you to hit your replacement income? If you're leaving corporate where you were making $125,000 a year, how long is it going to take you, if you were to invest in this business, get it cash flowing, ramp it up? Is it going to, are you going to be able to hit that 125 after year 1, year 2? Like when are you going to hit your replacement income and beyond? And the biggest question of all is, if you're married, is your spouse on board? You better have that heart-to-heart conversation with your spouse before you decide going down this route, because if your spouse is not on board, it's never going to work.
Interesting. So there's a lot to. What are some things that people, they're like excited about franchising, but then you're not ready yet because of XYZ. What are the common things you kind of see regarding that?
The biggest misconception is like when I talk about the difference between being an owner operator or being a semi-absentee owner. People love, people have selective hearing. When they hear semi-passive, when they hear semi-absentee, they automatically think passive, or like they automatically think fully passive or fully absentee. They think, oh, I want to own a franchise. I want to cut it. I want to make the investment. I want to pay the franchisor and sit back and do nothing. And so there's a difference between semi-passive and passive. Semi-passive is 10 to 20 hours a week. Passive is like 0 to 3 hours a week. And if you want to do passive, invest in real estate. Cut a check to your financial advisor and let them invest it in the market for you. That's passive. So the biggest misconception that people think is that they can just invest in a brand, cut a check to the franchisor, sit back, do nothing, make all the money, let the franchisor do all the work. It doesn't work like that. So so really understanding, like I said, semi-passive for a reason, not passive, because semi-passive still means that there's still 10 to 20 hours a week involved. And if you're not willing to put in that time, then franchising, business ownership in general, really isn't a good fit for you. And oftentimes people say, oh, my friend owns a car wash and like he works on it. He spends 0 time on it. And so chances are your friend's lying to you. We all like to, hype it, hype reality up. compared to what it really is. And chances are your friend's probably losing money. He's telling you that he's not losing money because he doesn't want to admit that he's losing money, but there's more to it. And then, who's at the car wash? There are employees. Who's dealing with those employees? If your buddy's not dealing with those employees, then who is? There's more to it. So just to the people that think that it's just really, I just cut a check and I sit back and I do nothing. I tell them, I say, well, business ownership is probably not right for you.
Yeah. Hey, what's up, Kelsey? And thanks for the wonderful comments, Uma. No, and I think that's a common thing. A lot of people, the grass is greener on the other side. Like they think about, hey, I don't like my job, or I want to get out of the rat race. And it's like, it's a different thing, right? It's a different level of responsibility, and you have to put in work, right? There's no way around that. And I I can attest to, as someone with their own business, it's like, it's not like, hey, I get paid on the 15th and 31st, right? That's it. And I know exactly how I'm gonna get paid. I know it's like, look, I'd love to know, but it changes month to month, right? And things move up and down, and until you put in upfront work, and typically it's like years of upfront work to get to a point where it is passive, semi-passive. I mean, I guess it depends on the franchise, but even in business, it takes time, right? It depends on your goals and what you want to do,
Yeah,
and all that.
the difference, so I like to differentiate between the terms entrepreneur and business owner,
Yeah,
because you don't necessarily have to be an entrepreneur if you want to
yeah,
be a business owner. And so for someone out there who's not an entrepreneur but wants to do something self-employed, franchising is a great route to go, because the entrepreneur is the visionary, right? Like
yeah,
the entrepreneur, I think the word entrepreneurship is more of a characteristic of a person.
yeah,
Like there are entrepreneurs out there that are not business owners, and if they were business owners, they would probably be great business owners. They just
yeah, yeah,
haven't gone. But so the franchise route is a great option for someone who's not an entrepreneur who wants to be a business owner, because they don't have to come up with the idea. The franchisor has already done that. They don't have to come up with the whole system. Like they're buying into a proven system. All they have to do is execute it. And if they've been executing already, so core skills that translate well into business ownership, especially franchise business ownership, sales, operations, communication, leadership, business development, like these core skills. If you have any one of those, chances are you can be a successful franchisee, and you can build a team to surround yourself for those skills that you lack at. Like if you're good at sales, then you be the sales director, at least for the couple of years of your territory, and on board like a project manager to help you with operations, or vice versa. But these skills that you cultivate in the corporate world, like sales, operations, etc., you could, like those would, leading teams. You've been doing that for years already in the corporate world. When you invest in a franchise, you're really doing the same thing. You are now self-employed, but you just have to follow the playbook that the franchisor provides you. And for those franchisees that execute it really well, they make a lot of money and they scale. And so really, that's the intrigue of the franchise route. It's a nice middle ground between being a corporate employee and starting your own business from scratch. To start your own business from scratch, you have to have some entrepreneur in you. But if the thought of starting your own business from scratch is overwhelming, you want to be a business owner, but it's just too overwhelming to think of starting something from scratch and how long that's going to take and the sweat equity that's going to be involved in it. And so franchise ownership is right in the middle of the spectrum between both of those extremes. You can be self-employed, you're still your own business owner, but you're investing into an already proven system, and all you have to do is execute that proven system. And the skills that you've cultivated in the corporate world will help you do that.
yeah. So no, I think that's good. So what are some situations where you kind of, like, in terms of franchising, right? What are some franchises that you're like, when someone's considering a franchise, what are some things that, yes, they get a big brand, but then sometimes, like, you hear like McDonald's, you need to have like 1 million liquid capital, this much net worth. What are some of the requirements that you sort of see for like the lot of the larger franchises?
Oh, so I mean, you said like the larger franchises, are really like they have you have to have net worth in like the multi-millions. You have to have liquidity of like, 500,000 and up. And those really, like a lot of those franchisees that are investing in those are not individuals. They're more like, family offices or investment groups. Like the actual franchisee is coming in and they're buying a whole portfolio and they have a ton of money. I focus more on those individuals out there that want to invest in franchises and like great brands out there that have, much smaller liquidity requirements, much smaller net worth requirements. There are some brands out there that require liquidity of 30,000 and like a net worth of like 80 or 90K. Like that's much more like more people are going to qualify for that brand financially as opposed to, a McDonald's, like, some legacy brand. Chick-fil-A is like a very, very, very hard to become a franchisee. That I mean, the waiting, like it's very hard to become a Chick-fil-A franchisee. They're very tough, like they're really strict, like their process, like, and they have a waiting, and so and again, like talking with the average person out there when they initially think of franchising, they think of fast food, they think of these legacy brands that they love as consumers, and just educating them on all that the franchise industry has to offer. So many different industries than just food service. There are, like I said before, service-based, retail, brick and mortar, home-based, B2B, B2C. They're just bringing awareness to the entire marketplace of franchise businesses out there for sale and figuring out which one is the right fit for person A and which one is good for person B and which one is good for person C. There's no painting everyone with one broad brushstroke. My business buyer coaching process, it always starts with the individual, getting to know the person as much as possible, and then going out to market and seeing, what is out there that may interest them. There are franchise businesses. And like I mentioned, there's also a whole marketplace for non-franchise, independently owned business resales.
Wow, that's interesting. That it's just like it's sort of like this underground world, right? It's like the not underground world, like a niche, just the franchises and all that. Now, have you seen like franchising become more common over the past few years, or you see it becoming less common just due to the rise of internet? Just offering different opportunity, right? Like there was a time where if you wanted a business, it was like you had to start out, but the internet has really changed things. So how's the internet really impacted franchising?
So it's impacted it for the better. It's brought more awareness to it. More people these days, the word, entrepreneurship is a sexy word. Business ownership is a sexy word, and everyone out there, like more and more people want to become self-employed, and so it's one thing to want to do it, and it's another thing to actually do it. And so franchising is a way for people to achieve their dream of owning their own business, something that they thought was much, that seemed like a much larger endeavor than they originally thought. Again, like the whole, like, oh, I have to start something from scratch, and how am I going to support my family? And so the franchise option, more, it's getting into more and more industries, and there are varying different investment levels. And it's a great option for someone who wants to be a business owner that has nowhere to start. There are like all types of industries that are recession resistant. Like no matter what, like if you need to like as long as there are cars out there, there's going to be a need for a mechanic. As long as there are houses out, like as long as there's real estate out there, there's going to be need for home services such as flooring, handyman. Any sort of like water damage, crawl space encapsulation services, like painting. As long as there are human beings, there's going to be a need for senior care. As long as people have pets, there's going to be a need for groomers and pet supply stores. So just, there are industries that are not going anywhere, coronavirus or no coronavirus. And so these industries, there's always a need for them. And and there are great franchise models in these different industries. So really, For all those reasons, franchising has only been more and more appealing, the last 10 to 15 years. And I only seen it being more appealing as time goes on, just because it's a great way to become self-employed, and more people out there want to figure out a way to make a living self-employed as opposed to working for the man.
Nice. So, what industries are becoming more common in franchising recently?
Senior care,
Senior care? Okay.
yeah, home services, cleaning, pet, auto, like these I keep like these are just they're becoming more, because there's always a market for them. There's always coaching. There are a lot of individuals and companies that can benefit from having their team or the individual coached, like whether on business coaching, leadership coaching, but pretty much wherever there's a market, there's always going to be that's always a good option for the franchise business. And what separates the franchise business from their non-franchise competitors in a certain industry is the fact that they're backed by the franchisor. And so really for the it's going to be tough. It's tough for the non-franchise businesses to compete with the franchise businesses when it comes to marketing,
Yeah.
because the franchise business is just pouring marketing dollars into your territory. Once you invest in it, they're pouring marketing dollars into your territory. And so the little guy is just not going to be able to compete with that. And so what you pay, like as a franchisee, what you get in exchange, you have to pay a royalty. You have to pay a percentage each month for marketing. And so, but you mitigate that by being able to scale faster. You mitigate that by being able to ramp up more. So, it's like if your royalty and your ad spend are taking a bite out of your margin each month, you can mitigate that by scaling faster than your independent competitor. And chances are, because you have the national backing of the brand, chances are, like if you have to buy inventory, chances are you have some sort of national relationship with a vendor that allows you to get lower per unit pricing compared to your independent competitor. So whatever you're paying in royalty and ad spend is most likely mitigated because you're paying less in some other type of expense category. So the intrigue of franchise business ownership is ability to scale, because you have the backing of the brand and you're in that proven system, and it has and also earning potential because you are able to scale. You have the ability to earn more. So if you're at a corporate job and you've hit the ceiling, you're making 75K, and you really like the thought of making 100K, or you're at 100, and the thought of making $250,000 is really just, you can't do it. Like, your bosses just aren't, like, you've maxed out. Like you have the ability, it's all on you. If you want to execute, like however much you want to, like if you want to own and that's subjective, right? Jonai, like,
Yeah.
if someone wants to make $75,000 to $100,000 year after year after year, and they're paying their bills and they're happy and they're doing it as a business owner, working 30 to 40 hours a week, God bless them. But then if you have another operator out there who owns a franchise and they're an empire builder, and they want to invest in one territory and then reinvest into a second, third, and grow and make, then God bless them. Like whatever someone wants to do, there's really no ceiling. The ceiling is really whatever you decide that it is, pretty much.
What are some things that people, I know you gave a lot. What are some things that people should first think about on their own before they think franchising, right? And what's the age group of people who normally franchise?
Great
What do
question.
you kind of see?
Yeah, so I mainly work with people in their late 30s to mid to late 50s, because they have some sort of liquidity and net worth that, number one, qualifies them for being able to invest in a franchise, and number two, if they were to make that investment, they're not they're not putting the house on it. They're not everyone has their own everyone has their own preference, but I think it's too risky if you're gonna invest more than half of your net worth. I think that's pretty much, I think that's too aggressive. So people in their late 30s to mid to late 50s, technically, they usually have enough net worth to be able to make this investment comfortably and still have, wealth besides it to protect, to be their nest egg, worst case situation if something were to go wrong. But, people in their 20s, early 30s typically don't have enough liquidity and net worth. They're bogged down in credit card debt and student loan debt. And again, but there are younger entrepreneurs out there that do it. There are also people that get help from family. Like if you have a family member that is willing to give you some sort of loan to start your business, you're not going to get any better financing terms than a friends and family loan. Compared, a friends and family loan is going to be tough for any bank to beat. So, that's like everyone's situation is different. But the typical person that I'm working with is transitioning out of corporate, late 30s to mid to late 50s.
Nice. Okay. Who are some people who, once they get into franchising, they fail, and it's because either their mindset or they go into certain things, right? And like, what causes them to fail once they start franchising?
So the biggest failure in franchise, like when like a franchisee, and working through my business buyer coaching process, like I over communicate all these types of things to it's all about having candid, straight shooting conversations with people. So we so these buyers like really have a full understanding of what it's going to take to be successful. I can't guarantee the success of someone. They have to. I can only lead the horse to water, but I take pride in staying in the horse's ear that entire walk to the river and just give them that good advice as much as possible to prepare them for business ownership, prepare them for franchise business ownership as much as possible. But people that go into franchising that fail at it, they just they went into a brand, like they went into a business model that was just not right for them. Like they were intrigued by a certain brand, but that brand, and they tried to do it. They tried to do it while keeping their day job. But that brand, but that particular brand, that business model require, really, in order for them to be successful, they need to work it full time. And so they tried to work it half time, and weren't able to do it. They weren't able to scale revenue. And then also people that they get too fancy. Like when you invest in a franchise, don't be like, entrepreneurs get fancy, like with their ideas and their visions and stuff like that. But when you're a franchise business owner, keep it simple. Just don't overthink it. Don't start trying to do things yourself. The whole point of investing into a franchise is just follow the franchisor's playbook. They've already figured that out for you. You just go and execute it. So for the franchisees that start clashing with the franchisor about doing things a certain way, it's just not going to work out, because when you sign the franchise agreement, you're agreeing to you have a lot of autonomy when you're a franchisee. You don't have to you don't have to report to your boss every week, with that board meeting, and you don't have to you're not capped out in terms of how much volume you want to do. The more money you're making, then the more royalty the franchisor is making, so everyone's happy. But it's when the franchisee starts to clash with the franchisor and argue with them, saying that they should do things differently, and they want to try doing this instead of that. It's not going to work, because the franchisor has the business system and you have to execute. And then so that person would be a great, they probably should have started their own business from scratch and do whatever the heck they want, or buy an existing non-franchise independent business resale. Once they buy it from the seller, then they can do whatever the hell sorry for my language, they can do whatever the heck they can do whatever the heck they want, because it's an independent business. So someone that wants to, start to change the way things are done are really not going to be a good fit for franchising, but they might be a great fit for independent business ownership. It's just because when you go into franchising, it's for that person that just wants to invest in an already existing system and just execute it and scale it and just keep it simple in that regard. And for the people that try to get too fancy with the strategy and the approach, they're going to clash with the franchisor. And the franchisors, you signed a franchise agreement. So, if you violate the franchise agreement, then the franchisor is going to have recourse to terminate it and stuff like that. So it's just not going to work out.
What do you kind of see in the future of franchising? Like, what are
I
some trends you kind of see?
I see I see really I see the future of franchise. I see more and more industries going the franchise route because it's a great way for the franchisor to scale. Um, I see I see I see more daylight. I see more regulation coming into it. I see more regulation. Like as more and more people get into it, and it becomes more and more of a common model. I see more daylight in terms of what franchisors are required to disclose to franchisees during the onboarding process. Like there's a big lengthy document that all franchisors are required to provide franchisees called the franchise disclosure document. And one of the items in the franchise disclosure document is an item 19. Item 19 provides historical financial statistics of existing franchisees in the system. And so this is discretionary to like the franchisors. They could have a robust item 19, and they can make it very thorough, and they can include lots of stuff to provide this prospective franchisee with as much information as possible when it comes to what they can expect to make. They can't make earning claims, but to get an idea of what they can make in year one, year two, year three. But there are other franchisors that choose to have either a very vague item 19 or nothing in their item 19. And so I see the regulation being where more franchisors are required to put more in-depth stuff in there to help people that want to potentially invest in the brand have more information to help them. And so I see there being more. I see there being more. I see it being more and more of an intriguing option for people, and more people going into that. And so, with that being said, I see more regulation coming into the industry because because if more people, there's a it's leaving the likelihood of lawsuits between franchisors and franchisees and infighting occurring, which means that there's going to have to be more regulation.
Nice, nice. Okay, so let's slowly start to wrap up. And how would someone sort of get in contact with you?
So LinkedIn, I'm big on LinkedIn. It's the only social media
That's how
platform
we
I'm on.
met.
That's how we met, man, in the summer of 2019, jamming on in the comment section of Gary Vaynerchuk's posts.
Yeah.
Um, and we've been staying in touch ever since. So hit me up on LinkedIn. Check out my website, BizFranHub, BizFranHub, BizFranHub.com.
So I'll type that in
Yeah,
bizfranhub.com.
bizfriendhub.com. My CPA firm, which we didn't talk about today, which it has a niche with. I have several franchise clients as tax clients as well, but I also have many non-franchise independent businesses and individuals as tax clients as well. The name of my CPA firm is Swartz and Reader Advisors. So the website there is swartzreader.com. So SWARTZ Reader, REEDER.com,
Yeah.
swartzreader.com. My cell phone is 847 302 3397. Call me and text me at that number. My email address, michael@bizfriendhub.com. Send me an email. But I'm really great with LinkedIn. I'm great with text. There's a whole, if you reach out to me, I'll get back to you within 24 hours, if not sooner than that. And
Yeah, you're pretty good about that.
I appreciate that, man. And I'm big on the free consultation call. So if you just want to have a free consultation call to discuss anything, buying a business, selling
Yeah.
a business, franchise or non-franchise, you have tax questions, you want to talk about your tax questions as a small business owner or
Yeah.
independent. Tony, if you want to dive deeper into your question that you had about taxes for e-commerce, let's have a free consultation call. I'm all about having free 60-minute consultation calls. I'm all about providing value up front as much as possible, and then let the chips fall where they may from there. I don't like nickel and diming people. I'm one of the few CPAs out there that provides that free consultation call. The majority of my CPA peers out there are going to charge you for their time. And for that 30-minute call, for that 1 hour call, that you're going to get an invoice from them. I'm all about, let's have a free consultation call, and I'll try to provide as much value as I can on that free consultation call. And then if you want to do business in any sort of paid context moving forward, then let's do it. And then if you working with me through my business buyer coaching process, there's zero out of pocket to the buyer that I work with, because if I end up connecting them to a franchise business that they end up investing in, then I'm going to receive a commission from the franchisor. So it's not going to be any out of pocket to the buyer that I'm working with. And if the buyer that I'm working with, if I connect them to a non-franchise independent business that they end up buying, I'm gonna split the commission. I'm gonna come up with a commission split with the seller's broker. So to work with me through my business buyer coaching process is zero out of pocket to you, the prospective buyer, because for the reasons that I just mentioned, like the way that I get paid for that is through either the franchisor or the seller or the seller's broker.
I mean, I love models like that where it's like a win-win for everybody involved, and I think it's definitely fair. So no, thank you for all that info. Reach out to Michael. I'm gonna tag him in the comments. So reach out to him if you need stuff. Feel free to reach out to me if you needed to contact him. Congrats. This is something we'll definitely do. We'll explore other topics in the future. Thank you again so much for your time. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Jonah. I appreciate you, man. It's been a pleasure jamming
Yeah,
with you this last year plus, and
cool.
thank you for all the value that you provide on LinkedIn. You have some of the best content out there, man.
No, I appreciate that. Now, I just want to give a shout out to, Jonathan Palmer, Usama, Nick Lozano. I'm actually ending. I know you went live. Sorry about clashing. We planned this months ago. I really don't like, clashing with other people's lives. So thank you guys. Kelsey, thank you always for supporting me. Appreciate that. So catch you guys again on LinkedIn Somnia.